Bill Carroll, Zindy62 Media, and I'm doing it. Still working that way through a 2024, 2025 watch list of the players that I'm going to watch. One of the things I really love about Division III players, there's only a handful of them I'm going to talk about this year, but you go onto their LinkedIn page and they're talking about their internships and what things they learned over the summer and things like that. I love that. Some people will, I guess, find a negative in the fact that they're preparing for life after football, but football ends for everyone, usually sooner rather than later. And I'm excited about the fact that these young men have other things going on in their lives. I'm going to start with Brandon Cade. He might be one of the top 3 or 4 Division III prospects, and the numbers he put up last season were frankly silly. And he averaged 11.5. I'm sorry, I can't help but sort of chuckle. 11.5 yards per carry, and no matter how many times I say it, it still sounds wrong. Last year, just a crazy nutty season. 24 rushing touchdowns, had on 233 233 yards rushing against Sewanee. He went off also against a few other teams. He had a huge game. He had a long of 88 yards versus Trinity College. He had 19 reception yards, which is the only one thing sort of blemish, I guess you could say, is a 13-yard reception was his long reception, 19 yards of receiving versus Rhodes, and 1 receiving touchdown. All were his highs for the season. But as the running portion of the running back, just craziness. His low output on the season, the bad game, was 19 carries for 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, with a long of 30 versus Huntington, and then 95, 1 touchdown with a long of 49 versus LaGrange. He also had 17 yards receiving versus LaGrange, which is the second highest output. Only 43 receiving yards. I'd like to see that go up by about 300, maybe even 400%, even if his rushing yardage comes down a little bit. But he had monster games. He went over 200 yards, right at 200 versus Hendricks, 293 versus Sewanee, as I may have mentioned. He was right at 100 versus a very good Rhodes team, 121 versus Birmingham Southern, 114 versus Millsaps, a good team, 112 versus Southwestern of Texas, 156 versus Trinity, 177 versus Center College. Center, for those with really great memories, is the school that Georgia Tech beat 222 to zip, if you're ever looking for the most lopsided score in the history of football. But like I said, receiving yardage is probably the one thing sort of poke at him about. I would like to see that improve. He's probably just a shade under 5'11", about 189 or so pounds. You'd like to see him get close to 200. If he gets to 196, that's fine. If he's 5'10 and a half, that's fine. He's probably going to be seen as sort of a third down back in the next level. And he's a guy who clearly can run. I'm going to think he runs worst case scenario like 4.52. I would, obviously, I'll be waiting very much with strong expectations to see exactly what he runs when the time comes. The next player I want to talk about is a little more recognized, well-known. I mean, Brandon Cade is probably the best running back that most of you have never heard of. Brody Grebe is somebody that more people are familiar with. He's at more of a powerhouse program. I say powerhouse, I mean at Montana State. He has had a very, very, very nice career. Right about 6'2", and I'll say 3/8 maybe. Somewhere in that range, 6'2 and 3/8, 6'2 and 5/8, somewhere in there. About 248 pounds. Powerful for his size, uses his hands well. Had a really good season last year. Made some teams, was All-American on some teams, 3rd team on others. Phil Steele, hard grader, made him a 4th team All-American. 1st team All-Big Sky, Buck Buchanan Award finalist, academic All-American as well, academic All-District, an FCS, Athletic Directors Association Scholar Athlete, and like I said, academic All-Big Sky. He had 55 tackles, including 13 and a half of them behind the line of scrimmage, which is what you're looking for, 10 sacks. Was number 9 in the FCS, 4 in the Big Sky, with .83 sacks per game. Would you like to see him get bigger? Yes, especially if he's going to be a true defensive end. You'd like to see him put on probably in the 12 to 15 pound range, which I think his frame can hold. If he's going to be more of a 3-4 outside linebacker, then he can probably stay right around the size he is now. Upper 240s, low 250s is probably fine. He makes big plays at a big time. He is a player that, if he is going to be a linebacker, I want to see him drop into coverage, but if he's going to be a true defensive end or even a designated pass rusher, whatever you want to call that next level, that's probably fine. If you're looking for players that he sort of reminds me of, for those that have a good sense of history, Danny Batten, right? If you're old enough to remember that name, Danny Batten is a player who very much reminds me of. I think he's going to have a similar run in the NFL. He'll have to, play in special teams in certain situations. I think a team like the Patriots would actually really like him, or even I could even see him landing with the Ravens or possibly a team like the Steelers. But those are my 2 players for today. I will have 2 more for you tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you there. And once again, this is Bill Carroll for Zinni 60 Media, working through that watch list. Take care, and I'll see you again tomorrow.